This is episode number 382 of the InnerFight podcast. My name's Mark Smith, and I've got with me today a special guest, Mr. Andrew Montgomery. Before we get into that, a nice big shout out, as always, to our show sponsors, Smith Street Paleo. Please rate and review the podcast. We will send you a bunch of goodies, and this podcast is the last podcast of 2017. We've brought you a podcast every single week of 2017. We've also brought you a fitness in under 3 minutes every single week of 2017. So go hop over, look at some of them, especially the ones that we've just punched out now. The one that we put out on Christmas Eve, managing Christmas, and also the one that is coming out on Sunday, the 31st, which is a new year in fitness in under 3 minutes. But that's not important. This show's important. This is show number 382, a long-time supporter and listener of the podcast. I'm only going to use his real name once more. Andrew Montgomery.
Yes.
Monty,
thank you.
Welcome to the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. Absolute
Mate,
pleasure to be here.
Good to catch you. Things are changing for you, but before we get into that,
yes,
mate, give us a little bit of background. Where do you come from, and who on earth are you, and why should we care?
Oof. I think a lot of the people that would have seen me in this gym before will see me as the guy who turns up in the crazy lycra, parks the bike at the front door, uses the shower, and then subsequently leaves the gym. I'm originally from Scotland. Ended up here in Dubai a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. Been here now. Things are cool, all good. And as you said, time has come now to move on. I think it's, for me, I've always sort of known when it's time to leave a place. So the minute I was old enough to leave home in Scotland, in St Andrews, I was out the door, gone. See you later, Mum.
Is the age of leaving home in Scotland a bit younger than it is in England?
18 I was gone.
Okay.
18 I was gone. 18 first day, out the door, gone.
That's not too bad, man.
Gone.
Yeah.
Moved in with all my mates, turned it into a bit of a party house, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then, sort of did the party scene, and it was all a bit too much, so moved over to Glasgow, a bigger city.
Right.
More bars, all that sort of stuff. Lived
I was done with the party scene in Edinburgh, so I moved to a city with more bars.
With more bars.
Brilliant.
Then did Glasgow for 4 and a bit years.
Yeah.
Again, I knew when it's time. You know, it's a pretty good skill that I have. I know when it's time to move on.
Right.
So from there, went down to London, and I think, as you can see, I'm going from bigger city to
bigger city. Yeah, you're upgrading, mate. I like that.
So then, did about 4 years in London, in central London, which was pretty hectic.
Yeah.
Wasn't really for me. Sort of lost sight of
what were you doing in London? Give us a bit of insights to sort of different, because I know you've got, people that do know you will know you as the bike guy here in Dubai, but that wasn't always what you woke up every day and went and did. So give us a little bit of background on sort of the jobs that you've worked and what makes you such an interesting character, mate.
Good. So as you can probably tell from the hair and stuff, and
watch the video version for hairdressing advice.
I worked for Liam Gallagher of Oasis in Glasgow, managing his store, Pretty Green, his clothing brand, which was a very interesting, really super cool. It was rock and roll retail, would be how I'd describe it. It was intense, like being in a band.
Really?
The closest I've ever felt to being in a band. Like the staff, 5 of us, really close knit.
So he has his own Liam Gallagher from Oasis. Those that don't know, you probably should know. Yeah. Google's pretty good.
Yes.
He has his own clothing brand, and they have a store in Glasgow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
So the brand's called Pretty Green.
Right.
It's named after a song by The Jam. Pretty Green is a reference to money, cash.
Right.
So at the time he had one main store in Carnaby Street, which was obviously Carnaby Street was happening in the 60s, with the Beatles and all that.
Yeah.
And he then opened a store in Manchester, in his hometown.
Right.
And then one in Glasgow, because that's where the band were found. in a nightclub called King Tut's, which still operates to this day. So
another stat I had no idea about. I knew you'd come with interesting things.
Yeah, so we were originally 3 stores at the time, and it was really small knit. Like, you used to send a text message at the end of the night to like Liam with how much you'd taken. Like, that's
no way.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
And he's meanwhile. I mean, what year was this?
Well, I would have been about 19, 20, so 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but at that time, like, I mean, mate, Oasis definitely maybe came out when I was about 16.
Okay.
I'm 39 now.
Yeah.
So this guy's multi-millionaire,
Yeah.
an absolute rock star, and you just text message him at the end of the night, we've taken 50 quid today.
Yeah. Sold a polo shirt.
How good. That's such... So was this the end? Was this your entry into the retail world?
Yes.
Right.
I worked in a bar beforehand, and I came home from one night working in the bar, and my girlfriend at the time, she had picked up like a free newspaper you get when you go past the train station.
Yeah.
And there was an advert inside the paper that said they're looking for staff.
Right.
And Chloe at the time, she said, "Look, you need to go in. Like, this is you.
This is you.
This is you. This is the calling card, you know."
Yeah.
And so, turned up for the interview, and I remember it was like, it was biblical. Like, the snow was just insane. It was like like you couldn't even walk. The streets were closed down. Public transport was just not happening.
Really?
And I had to walk for about 40 minutes in the snow, like ankle deep, to get to this interview. And I got there, my desert boots were all wrecked, was soaking wet, my trousers were soaking, my hair was a mess. And
nothing's changed on that
nothing's
one.
Changed
the
on the
boots
hair,
are now
but,
dry.
And then I got interviewed by this this Australian Cockney sort of geezer. And
terrible combo.
And he's like, "What's your experience in retail?" And I said, "Well, I haven't really got much experience, but could probably sing every single Oasis song to you and quote you every lyric."
No way.
And don't know what happened, but I got the job. And,
really?
Yeah, I got the gig. So
what was his response to that, mate? Because I think like I remember when I finished university and went down to London, and I was like, I'm going to get a job, and I actually got really bored of telling people, well, when I was at uni or when I was at school, I did this work placement and this one interview, I just went, well, I actually don't have any experience at all.
Yeah.
I'm a graduate, but if you want to give me a shot, then you can. And you were doing exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the honesty's there. You know, like, you go in, you say, look, the passion's there. Give me a chance. Appreciate the honesty that I'm giving you, and then I think that speaks more for your CV in a way. You know, they can read the CV. They've read it. You know.
Yeah.
By the time you get to them, they sort of know what you're about. They've read where you went to school. You know, what degree you have, etc., etc. And I just went in and said, look, take a chance on someone, and you know you're not going to regret it.
That's do you think, let's take this on a wider level, do you actually think that these days there is too much sort of bullshit kicking around, and people actually, if they're presented with a question like that, and you were super honest and straightforward, but people generally just bullshit people.
Well, that's how I then got my job at Paul Smith. I walked in to do the interview, and there was like 2 rounds of interviews and stuff, and I just said to him, like, look, like, you've seen the CV, and I agree with you, like, everyone goes to uni these days, and it seems to be like you leave school, you go to uni, you do 4 or 5 years at uni, and then what have you got? You've got a bit of paper with your name on it, and a
stinking hangover, probably.
and a hefty bill, you know.
No,
I'm not having it. I think get out there and just tackle the world. Like, that's what I've done, and I've gone on from city to city, and I've had a good time doing it, you know. I think being honest in job interviews, being honest in life, is going to get you much better places than a bit of paper with your name on it.
So this guy is this Cockney Australian, now knows that you know pretty much every Oasis song, and he's given you a job.
He's given me a job, He said, what's your experience? And I said, oh, well, I've seen Oasis in Murrayfield. I've seen, you know what I mean? And he gave me the job, and then, it was just awesome. Like I said, we opened the shop, we had a party every single day, me and the staff. Still speak to them all now to this day.
Really?
Yeah. One of the staff, she lives out here now.
Right.
Still speak to her every day. One of the other girls that worked in the shop, she came out to visit us last month. So I think, again, that speaks volumes as well, that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And yet we still communicate with each other that day because there was that family environment was created, you know. And there was a mutual respect for each other, and we just had a blast. You know?
I have to ask you, mate, as I said before, people probably know you around here from the bike shop, from Wolfie's Bike Shop. At this time, were you into bikes?
Yes, but not riding them.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
What did you like to do with them? I know a lot of people that are into bikes that don't ride them, mate. They just buy them.
The story is actually, for me, I tell it quite a lot.
Right.
Two people who I dedicate how I got into cycling to.
Right.
One of them, my English teacher at school.
Wow.
So I was a bit of a tearaway. Like, I wasn't really into education and stuff, which is why I didn't go to uni.
Yeah.
And she was trying desperately to get me to focus in English class and to actually do an essay or a project.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't interested.
Nah.
And she kept me behind after class one day and she said, look, like, you've got a lot of potential, and it really upsets me that you're not fulfilling your potential.
Right.
And she gave me a book, and she said, look, I want you to read this book. I know you're into sports. I played football for the school team, and I think that was probably the only reason I was allowed to stay on at school. And she gave me this book, and it was Lance Armstrong, the autobiography of Lance.
Yeah.
And I took it home, and I couldn't put it down.
Really?
I read it all cover to cover in like 2-3 days. Like, smashed it. And I mean, I would like to speak to her now and tell her, you
changed my life.
You changed my life because you introduced me to the biggest drug addict in the sport.
What was it, mate? Because I remember being given that book as well.
Yeah.
And the drugs aside, and we could make a whole show about the drugs, especially in the light of Chris Froome's recent...
we maybe should do, actually.
Yeah, we maybe should do two shows. What was it about the book, mate, that made...
Yeah.
What lit the flames for you?
Yeah, I think not just for me, but for everyone. I think, obviously Lance had cancer, and he was given like such a small chance that he was going to survive.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, people didn't know it at the time, but for him to then come back from, and the pictures inside the book as well are pretty harrowing. They're
brutal.
And he went on from that to then go on and win the Tour de France emphatically, 7 times in a row. And it's just that fairy tale story, You're growing up, having read the book, I was like, wow, this guy, can achieve anything.
Yeah.
And, it was intense. And obviously all the sort of stuff surrounding him as he went on to win more and more Tour de France, you didn't want to believe it.
Right.
Because I'd read the book and I was like, no, it cannot be true, it cannot be true. And then, just the book is just intense, and like... the young Texan boy, similar to myself, didn't really know his father and stuff, like brought up by his mum. Serious illness, and then went on to become one of the biggest sports stars in the world. And anyone my age would be lying if they didn't say that Lance Armstrong was probably one of the main reasons they got into the sport, because he made it popular in America and all these places, And it's, again, going on to like Chris Froome. Lance was the same. He targeted the Tour de France. It was the biggest race of the year. He turned up with the team, and that's all he wanted to win. And Froome's the same. He doesn't really mess around with all the Mickey Mouse races. He turns up for the Tour. Wins it and then goes home.
Goes home after.
Goes home, yeah. And then, that brings me on to the next person. So, a guy called Peter Green. So when I was at school, I also worked in a bar, and I was big into football. So I was working in a pub. And I'd always put on the football, as you would, like the customers want to see football. And he would always come in and sit at the end of the bar with the Guardian and do a crossword.
Right.
Every day, every single day, 3-4 o'clock, you could guarantee he'd be in. And he always used to ask, "Can you put the cycling on?" And I'm like, "Cycling? The wind-up, mate, let's get the football on." And so I started putting the cycling on, and he explained the sport. So he educated me on the sport of cycling. So
no way.
I went on then to watch it all the time. I would watch cycling over and over and over again.
What was it that attracted you to it? You've read this. Sorry, you've read this book of. I don't know if it's fairy tale Armstrong's story or if it's just an incredible demonstration of passion, energy, and outright hard work.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that there was drugs involved, as we said, we could make it. But and then you see cycling on TV in a pub.
Yeah.
Which pubs generally just play football.
Absolutely.
Over and over. What was it about the sport, mate, that you were like, wow, this is...
I think you need to understand the sport, first of all.
Yeah.
If you were to put the sport on TV now and watch it, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have probably never seen cycling on the TV, you would not know what's going on.
No.
I think for me the beauty of the sport is that it's an individual sport where the individual gets the accolade, but is supported by a team of hard-working individuals who at the end of the day don't get the same support, the same limelight. And again, I use Christopher Froome as an example. A lot of people would know who he is, but he won those Tour de France with 9 riders. He was one, 8 others.
No one at the BBC Sports Personality of the Year knows who Chris Froome is, though, just for the record.
Okay, this is also... Yes.
That's another little jib. You're absolutely right. Like, who's the... I mean, mate, I like cycling, and I can't tell you who his 7th... I know a couple of his riders, but I can't tell you who his whole team is. It's incredible.
I think for me, that's the beauty of the sport, and they obviously don't get paid anywhere near as much money as a lot of other people, and they... they're racing, they're away from their families for long periods of time. A lot of the time they're injured. They crash hard. You come off one of those bikes, it's not fun.
Thank you.
It is not fun, and they get back on it.
Right.
And they get back on the bike and they need to finish, and it's intense. I've been around the professional peloton a few times, and I know a lot of riders, and when you see the scars and they take off their jerseys and stuff,
incredible,
and it's
injuries, shoulders, collarbones,
everything.
So you become a cycling fan without a bike.
Without a bike.
You're working for Gallagher in his dodgy clothes shop. Text messaging him the daily sales. And then you moved to London.
Yes.
When did you buy a bike then?
London.
Right.
Yeah. So I went to work for Rafa.
Right.
Rafa, one of the cycling brands that everyone would likely know. Cool, hip.
The Gucci. Or is it? Would you describe it the Gucci of cycling?
Well, now the Walmart, but at the time,
But it was a little bit edgy and a little bit...
How would you describe it?
It's
like... I mean, you could put the stuff on a catwalk in Milan and it wouldn't really look too much out of place.
Right.
And they have a very strict policy, and again, we go back to the whole CV thing. They will only employ people who ride a bike.
Right.
It's plain and simple.
Makes sense.
You can be the most qualified person to do the job, whether it's marketing or sales or distribution. If you don't ride a bike,
you're out.
They're not really interested in you.
Fair enough.
Again, I managed to wing that one.
So Lance Armstrong's book, Cycling in the Pub, you're into it a bit. You apply to Rafa. You know everything about cycling, but you don't ride a bike.
That's correct.
And they gave you the job.
They gave me the job. But I was able to... I got interviewed by the CEO of the company.
Right. It was a small organisation back then, was it? Or
a little bit. It was still pretty big, you know. And, he sat down and I was able to talk to him about greats of the sport like Marco Pantani and Fausto Coppi, and it appealed to me. I got pulled on the heartstrings a little bit, you know, and he knew straight away. He said, despite this guy not riding a bike, he understands the sport. The history of the sport, where it's at now. And then I was introduced actually in the store to a guy called Rob Saunders. And he was the one who essentially put me on a bike. And taught me the ropes. An incredible gentleman, and that's what he was, a true gentleman. A gentleman of the sport. Always very well dressed, both on and off the bike. And he taught me the things that don't really happen here in Dubai so much. Like the hand signals, like what to do, how to ride, how to be professional, how to behave yourself. These sorts of things. The etiquette. The etiquette is what he taught me. And that's when I got on the bike.
Right.
That's when I got on the bike.
And what was it like, mate? after following a sport for a while there, and then suddenly you start to ride.
Yeah, it was a pretty steep learning curve, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because you're the manager of a store which is super, super popular, and it's like a mecca, you know. It's in central London, and you've got people flying into Heathrow and making that journey to Rafa on their connection. And they see you as the manager of the store, and you know, they can see through the bullshit. You don't want to lie to them.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm on the bike and all this sort of stuff. And you had to learn pretty steeply, like pretty quickly get on the bike, you know, pedaling, clipped in, falling. I remember actually I fell clipped in, and for those, again, people that don't understand cycling and are listening, you're attached to the bike. It's like snowboarding or skiing where you're connected.
Yeah.
And I'm riding down Regent Street in central London. It's a pretty busy street.
Yeah, right.
And
you started on the back streets then.
Started on the back streets, yeah. And a double-decker bus sort of cut in front of me.
Right.
And obviously I had a little wobble, and once the balance goes, you're gone. Like, you know, you're on the floor.
Yeah.
And so I fell off, and I'm lying outside Hamley's toy store on Regent Street.
No way.
Still connected to the bike.
No way.
Right? And there's all these tourists taking pictures of what is the manager of the store lying on the floor.
I must have been thinking, is this a marketing plot or something gone wrong?
And I don't tell that story to too many people. And I just remember
sold a few thousand.
I just remember I could just see my sunglasses like lying on the pavement, and I just reached for them and just like put them on and like pedalled away, thinking, if that gets out, the career's over before it's even started, man.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, and then Rob was a great help. Fantastic person.
Yeah.
Really got me on the bike. And then actually, I think my life is like meeting people and like going from. It's a journey. It's really cool. So I met a person called Walter Beckers. Every year, actually, this is a good time to talk about it. Every year, Rafa do this thing where they encourage people to ride 500k in the week before Christmas.
Wow.
And here maybe in Dubai you think, not a problem. I go to Al Qudra, ride round 100k, 5 days, done.
Easy.
You try doing that in Europe
when
it's snowing and it's freezing cold and it's minus. It's intense. So I tested myself at that, and we got to. I remember it. I think about 40k short, and my Garmin ran out of battery.
No.
And you upload it all to Strava, so you upload your rides, and at the end of the ride, if you complete the 500k, they give you a little badge, like a roundel.
Right.
And I'm 40k short. So I had to nip into a shop and charge my Garmin, to ask them to use the cable to charge my Garmin to finish the 40k.
Yeah.
And this was I think it was on New Year's Eve. And I'm sitting in this cafe and I'm freezing. I'm shivering. Yeah, I'm absolutely frozen. I'm waiting for this Garmin to charge. Yeah, and actually, Maureen, his wife, she walked over and she said, "Are you a cyclist?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a cyclist. And I can call myself that now. Yeah, I've been there a while." I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "My husband's actually quite shy, but he's looking at you suffering, and he likes it." I said, okay. And she said, let me introduce him. So he came over and he sat down next to me and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing this 500k challenge, blah, blah, blah. I'm 40k short. I'm freezing. And he's like, that's brilliant. And he's like, this is fantastic. Do you mind if I give you my number? I said, yeah. And we became great friends.
Really?
Great friends.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
And I guess that hammered home a little bit more about... I think it's the same in every sport. I don't think it's exclusive to cycling.
No.
I think it's the same in a number of sports where people just start a sport or see a sport, and the same in that coffee shop that you just got introduced to and you become good friends. It's just something that people see within a sport. And I also think that's why sports... so valuable for life, for everything that we do. So it's but those situations actually give you a lot of motivation as well, I would guess, to continue. I'll
always remember we kept in touch, and he said, why don't you come over to Belgium? He's from Belgium, and they ride their bikes pretty seriously in Belgium. He's like,
not on proper roads either.
No. And he said, yeah, why don't you come over, stay with my family, and we go out riding. And again, I got a group of guys together from London, and we travelled over. And I said, oh, we're meeting this guy. He's going to take us out on a ride. And they were all like, what? Who's this guy? Like, he keeps on talking about this guy. Like, where did you meet this guy? And I met him in a coffee shop. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
So we turned up in this car park in the middle of nowhere in Belgium, outside of Carrefour. And he's standing there. He's got the tattoos on the legs, shaved head. And we're looking at him, and he's got this, like, we've got all the gear, like, we're looking at him going, who's this? And he absolutely proceeded to tear our legs off.
Really?
For 4 days.
Really?
On another level.
Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah, it was intense. I think, and we kept in touch, and I do a lot of my favourite rides, and a lot of the best riding I've ever done was in Belgium with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Mate, talk us through the progress. So you're at Rafa.
Yep.
You had one more stop in London before you moved over to Dubai.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Talk us through that.
Paul Smith, the fashion.
Why did you leave Rafa?
It was, to be entirely honest, I was underqualified for the job.
Right.
It was intense.
Yeah.
Central London. I'd just moved. At the time, actually, I'd decided to become vegetarian.
Right.
Which was maybe a bit of a silly idea. It was a challenge I'd taken up with my girlfriend at the time to prove to her that I could survive without meat.
Okay.
And I was working long hours, trying very hard to put together this store, which was the flagship store, learning a new sport. It was all too much. It was intense.
Right.
I remember going to Barcelona with Chloe at the time, and it just wasn't right. And I knew it. Again, I knew it. I said, this is not for me. There was a few other things which came up. Yeah. A few other brands which were interested in me started speaking to me and said, look, why don't you come and join us here in this? And I met a few other friends in different brands. And made the decision that Rafa was not for me. And I tell you what was probably the biggest learning experience of my life to this day was actually the failure of being there at Rafa. And I think sometimes people are not compatible with certain places, and that was definitely one of those. Left. I was actually almost 9 months. I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to go ride my bike. So for 9 months.
But mate, let's just rewind. You've said that really, really quite straightforward. You've fallen in love with a sport, cycling.
Yeah.
You got into it. You got into, let's call it, back to what we did at the start, the Gucci brand of cycling.
Yeah.
They're going everywhere, and you had to leave. You had to.
Yeah.
You felt underqualified. You felt that's a really big move, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, for sure, I was underqualified to do the job. I'd gone from working in a store with Liam Gallagher, which was pretty informal.
Yeah.
Essentially 5 mates just turning up in the morning, opening the shop.
Right.
If you sold 2 polo shirts, awesome. If you sold 10 leather jackets,
great.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
And then going to central London, that was a big move. The speed of life was intense. And then not just definitely being underqualified for the job was a part of it, but I think as well I sort of lost who I was.
Right.
I turned into a bit of a square, to be honest.
Right.
It just wasn't being me. Like I think I had a bit of a midlife crisis, to be honest.
Fair enough.
It just wasn't. I didn't fit.
Right.
I was pretending to be somebody that I wasn't, essentially.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I'd left and I'd sort of had time to evaluate it and look back that I realised that it wasn't for me, and I was pretending to be something that I wasn't. You know,
right.
And again, that's what I go on. I said it was a huge learning experience, and I've had it, and now I can go on and be. I found out now who I am as a person. And,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't any of that faffing around pretending to please people that you wanted to be friends with because you weren't into it and stuff. Like, now I am who I am.
So it was almost like a breath of fresh air getting out of there.
Yeah, and then as I said, I went on and did a long time without any work.
Yeah.
I did a bit of stuff with POC, the helmet brand.
Yeah, right.
I was in Stockholm with them, out riding my bike, and I just travelled around a bit and rode about. I was always in Belgium with Walter riding.
Yeah.
Because you were on the Eurostar, straight into Brussels and then out riding.
Right.
But it was good. It was 9 months where I just sort of didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
It was a 9-month hole in my life, but I needed it. Yeah, I found myself, and I'm happy that I did it.
Yeah.
And not everyone gets the opportunity to just leave planet Earth.
Yeah.
Ride their bike.
Right. Not everyone at all.
And then I finally had to get back into work. Yeah, so like it's been and done. Let's start to get serious here.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you enjoy? You know, you've had all this time off. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And I've always liked clothes. I like clothes.
Right.
And I said, well, Paul Smith is the brand, you know, in the UK.
Yeah.
Almost around the world, you know. He is Sir Paul Smith. People know him all over.
Yeah.
And they had a vacancy. They've got a few stores in central London, and they had a couple of vacancies. So I applied for one store, and I remember I was riding in Richmond Park, and I was doing a few laps and stuff, and I had my headphones in. And the phone started ringing, and I answered. I didn't know who it was because my phone's in my back pocket, and the phone starts ringing in my headphones. And I answered the call, and I'm like, "Hi, how you doing?" And he's like, "Hi, this is Paul Smith. We just want to take you up on an interview, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, cool." She's like, "Where are you just now? It sounds a bit windy." I said, "Yeah, I'm actually on my bike." And so I spoke to her for like 15 minutes on the phone, like just doing laps of Richmond Park.
Really? You didn't think to stop the bike and just stop the wind resistance?
No.
Okay.
I got the job, so it's all right. And I actually applied for one store, but they said, you know what, don't think that store's right for you. But we've got another store which would be a better fit.
Right.
And I went in there and I had the best time. I loved it. The brand is incredible.
Yeah. The
structure, the training, the support is incredible. Like, as a brand, I always say to people, like, when you go into a store or when you go into a brand, like, you see. I always refer to like a pantomime or a circus. Like, you see what's on stage. Yeah, you don't see what goes on behind the closed doors.
Yeah.
Like any business around the world. But I tell you, Paul Smith is a fantastic place to be, to grow, you know, to learn. It is incredible. And I was really, really sad. I was upset to leave that place. I'd just started to get into my groove. You know, I'd done the training. I had the full support of the area manager in central London. We were really going to give it a big crack.
Yeah.
And then Dubai.
Then it just changes.
Yeah, then it stopped raining and the sun came out.
Had you been to Dubai before you
Yeah.
got the job, or you applied for the job here?
No, I had been before.
Right.
I came out for the Dubai tour.
Cycling again.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm good friends with Brian Holm.
Right.
He's the sports director or the team manager for Ethics Quickstep.
Okay.
And he'd said, look, you should come out. The race it's fairly quiet. You know, you get a lot of access to the riders. You can sit in the car with the team.
Right.
Come out for a holiday, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd sort of said to my girlfriend at the time, like, oh yeah, we're going on holiday to Dubai, and she's like, wow, we're going to Dubai. Like, we always wanted to go, and then it just so happened that the Dubai tour was on at the same time, and she was like,
she'd understand that was a complete coincidence.
Absolute coincidence.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she sat on the beach every day, and I went down to the cycling.
Right.
So we didn't actually see each other for 5 days.
Great holiday by the sounds of it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And at the time, Paul Smith had just designed the jersey, so it sort of tied in.
Right.
They sent over their head of marketing to look after the sort of the promotional side of things, and he didn't really know much about cycling. So Paul Smith had said, like, look, you're going out there at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you mind just to sort of help Matteo with the marketing side of things for the jerseys? And I said, yeah, it's a great tie-in. I'm there anyway. So
yeah.
I'm down at the start line one morning. And it's pretty hot, yeah.
Compared to London.
Compared to central London in January, yeah.
To give this some perspective, though, it's winter in Dubai, and you've come from winter in the UK, so it's warmer here. It's still only 25, but
still
carry
only
on.
25. Coming from like 6 degrees.
Yeah.
So all the cyclists are walking around in like shorts and t-shirts, suntan lotion on.
Yeah.
And I turned up at the start line with, I think I had a leather jacket on.
Of course.
A bobble
Fashion
hat,
guy.
like a winter bobble hat. and a pair of sunglasses, which were just enormous. They were huge.
So you used Google to check the weather, and you'd come appropriately dressed?
Yeah.
No.
I don't really look at the weather, to be honest. I just dress what I want to wear.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I'm walking through the start pen in the morning, and then that's when I met Wolfie.
Right.
He'd obviously spotted this man who was quite clearly out of place.
Yeah, and said, "You lost, sir."
Yeah, and said, "Sorry, mate, but you're in the wrong country." Yeah, and then he obviously wanted to see or know who I was.
Right.
So I got the business card from Wolfie. Pleased to meet you. I'm Wolfie. I own a bike shop here in Dubai. I said, "Yeah, cool. I work for Paul Smith. I'm here on vacation. I'm here with Brian Holm and Mark Cavendish and all these guys. And I'll see you around." So then every morning at the start pen, he would see me, I would see him. We would give each other a nod and all this sort of stuff. So then, Dubai tour finished. Went back home to London.
Right.
And then again, my girlfriend Chloe at the time, she influenced a lot of my early part of my life.
Yeah.
And she said, I remember it clear as day. We got back from Dubai, and the next morning she's on the computer and she's looking away. And I said, "Don't even get any ideas."
Really?
And she said, "What?" I said, "I know exactly what you're doing here. We're not moving there."
Really? She wanted to move here
straight away. Next day.
Really?
Next morning, she's on the computer.
And
she's
what
looking
was
at jobs.
her profession at the time?
She did marketing and recruitment for fashion brands.
Right.
For clothing brands.
Right.
In central London also.
Right.
Brands, stores like Harrods and stuff. She would recruit for them.
So super easy to get a job over here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So she starts going through the interview process, and I've just started a job in Paul Smith, and I'm really loving it,
Yeah.
And really, I found my home. That's how I felt, And she said, "Oh, I got a job in Dubai," and we didn't really have the conversation, that sit down and be like, "Right,
let's do this.
Let's plan this one out." It just sort of, she's like, "Yeah, I've got the job. So when are you moving?"
Right.
And then I had to go back to the area manager who would really started to kick off, and then had to say to him, "Yeah, mate, I'm really sorry, but I need to leave." And that came as a bit of a sort of kick to the guts for him, And then I was like, "What am I going to do? There's no Paul Smith out here. It's franchise, so you can't transfer me.
So you can't just
So I'm rooting around for this business card from Wolfie, and I'm like,
that you luckily kept.
That I luckily kept, yeah.
No
I do keep a lot of business cards, to be honest.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And I met him. So I Skyped him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's super busy over here in Dubai, And he kept on saying to me, "Super busy, super busy, super busy, super busy." And I'm like, "Mate,
I live in London.
I live in central London, mate. Don't tell me it's busy."
Yeah.
So he actually flew over to London, and he turned up at London with his wife Gabby and his daughter Anna, and they came into the store and they met me and we went out for lunch.
No way.
Yeah. And we got talking and stuff, and he's like, "Look, yeah, be great to have you out there." So I'd said to him, "Look, we're going to do it on one condition. There's a bike that I really like. I really want this bike. There's only 100 made."
Right.
He's like, "Is that all?" I said, Yeah. So he came back to Dubai, and then I think he emailed me about 7-10 days later, dropped me an email and said, "We've got the bike. When can you start?"
No way. What bike was it?
It's the bike that I currently ride now.
Cervelo.
The Cervelo, yeah.
S5.
Yeah, the team edition. So I was like, "Yeah, this guy's pretty serious. Best start packing the bags."
Really?
Yeah.
So your girlfriend had already accepted the job. She was on the way over.
Yeah, she was in Dubai.
Yeah.
So I had to give 3 months' notice at Paul Smith. So I stayed in London for myself for 3 months.
Yeah.
And she was out here. So we were apart. And then moved out. And I remember it. I think it finished on a Friday.
Yeah.
Like 5 o'clock. Went home. So I just tidied up the last of my things.
Yeah.
Made it to Heathrow. Flew through the night. Landed in the morning. Dropped Wolfie a text. Said, "Oh, that's me here in Dubai." And then he said, "Yeah, come down. See the store. See the guys." And then ended up doing a full 10-hour shift.
As you do.
As you do, yeah.
As you do.
2.5 years later, I'm still here.
You are still here, mate, but you're very soon to be gone.
Yes.
The Dubai chapter has been a challenge. on a number of levels. Give us a little bit of an overview on the sort of Dubai chapter. It seems you've had some very interesting different spots. What's Dubai done for you? How have you enjoyed it, and what's it been all about?
I think moving to Dubai from the UK, it's the culture change is huge.
Yeah. Massive. Especially for a bloke like you, mate. Like,
wow.
There's a lot of idiots walking around here dressed like complete wankers, but you take that to another level sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In the nicest possible way.
No, that's true.
And people are very judgmental. I think in London you can walk down the street. I mean, you can fall off your bike on Regent Street as the new rapper man and just pull your sunglasses, get up and carry on.
Yeah, no one bats an eyelid.
If that happens in Dubai, everyone's like...
What's going on? Again, sort of in the first couple of months that I was here, again lost sort of sight of who I was. Do you know what I mean? Lost in culturally, you're trying to fit in and you're trying to like, what's going on? And I mean, you might not like this one, but for me, too many people wearing baseball hats, man.
Yeah.
Too many people wearing baseball hats for me. You wouldn't catch me in a baseball hat.
No, and, just a beanie in the middle of summer.
Just a beanie in the middle of summer. So
that's what I don't get about you. Baseball hats are out, but a beanie when it's 40 degrees is like absolutely fine. Carry on.
I always remember that time at Ironman Dubai, actually, when we went down to watch it.
Yeah.
And
I think I've still got the picture. It's disgusting.
It's an intense place. Yeah, I mean, London is fast, but Dubai is also very similarly fast. In a different way. In a very different way. It's hard to describe Dubai to people, I find.
Yes.
I have friends back home, still live in the small town that I'm from, back home in Scotland.
Yeah.
And when I do go back to visit them, they're like, what's it like? And I struggle to describe Dubai.
It's very difficult, mate.
I don't really know what it is.
So now, let's try and get you to describe it. You're now leaving.
Yes.
Tell us the 3 things that you've enjoyed the most about living and working here for the last... It's just over 2 years, basically.
Just over 2 years, yeah.
So let's see if we can paint a picture that way. What have you enjoyed the most?
I think for me, the first thing, it's because it's so young.
Yeah.
You can leave an impression.
Right.
Yeah, I think... And I didn't realise this until last week when I sort of started telling people that I was leaving.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that came out and said, what you've done in the years that you've been here has been quite an achievement.
Awesome.
In terms of the style and what people wear on the bike. So I think because it is quite young, you can leave an impression on the on the country, on the place, on Dubai, or the UAE essentially.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
When I first came here, people wouldn't wear pink on a bike.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. People cycling on the tracks in basketball shorts and a t-shirt and stuff, and that's to take it to the extreme. There was certainly definitely Lycra before I came. I'm not saying that I turned up and suddenly everyone was wearing Lycra. That would be the first thing I would say I've enjoyed about the place. I think the biggest thing I'm going to miss about Dubai is the fact that I've got a swimming pool in my apartment.
Right.
The level of living here is quite luxury.
Quite luxurious, and quite easy compared to somewhere like London.
Yeah.
Like, you get that fast-paced city, and you get, people are upset when it takes them, 30 minutes instead of 15 minutes to get home. Well, try a train on a London commute, break it down, you're 2.5 hours.
Yeah, they called it the London hour. Yeah. Well, if you're going anywhere, it's an hour.
It's an hour.
Regardless where you're going, it's an hour.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the major things here, which is fantastic about Dubai, is the sort of the standard of living and the ability that you finish your work, you just go and sit by the beach, or on the Palm, like you can swim in the sea 7 days a week,
365 days of the year,
absolutely, and that's cool. That's one thing I thoroughly enjoy about Dubai.
So in your final post, there'll definitely be a hashtag blessed somewhere there.
Blessed. No, definitely. It's been an amazing place to live.
What's challenged you the most being here, mate?
I'm a bit of a loner, to be honest. I like to be by myself. And being quite far away from my friends back home in Scotland, that's been a bit of a challenge. Like they're always there for me, and they're always on the end of the phone. But I went through a huge breakup with my girlfriend Chloe. We'd been together for 10 years.
Yeah.
Since we were kids. I mean, I was 18. She was 16 when we met.
Right.
And then we broke up. And that was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Like that was a black hole, big time. And it's not a place, Dubai, that you want to be by yourself.
It's quite lonely.
Extremely lonely.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a lot of people around you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was tough. That was extremely tough. There's a few people who really rallied around me, and I've got, you know, I'll never forget them.
Yeah, right.
Wolfie, for one, my friend Laura and stuff. You know, they were. That was emotional.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and suddenly you're by yourself.
Yeah.
You need to make decisions by yourself.
Yeah, it's tough.
You know, and I'd never really made the decision by myself.
Yeah.
You know, Chloe used to make them all for me, or she used to be there. You know what I mean? We're big kids, man. And
Awesome.
and then having to live by yourself and make all these decisions. So that's where I think that, you know, the decision to leave Dubai was huge for me, and it took a lot of time to get my head around it and say, like, you know, Monty, this is, you know, grow up. Like, you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
And that was emotional and stuff. And it's, but yeah, now
it's happening.
It's happening.
Talk us quickly through the next chapter, mate. Where are you off to? Where will people see you? What are you going to be doing? And where are you going to take your, what I'd call, unique brand of human being?
My wardrobe.
And your haircut next.
So we do 8 to 9 weeks in Australia with MAP. So I'm closely associated with the guys, Ollie and Jared. They have a cycling brand called MAP.
Yeah. Which is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, it's also cutting edge, it's up and coming, similar sort of wavelength to Rafa, but not quite as ridiculous, but more ridiculous in some of the designs. And again, it could be worn on a catwalk. It's very different to what traditional cycling apparel's been all about.
Yeah, it's definitely design orientated, all about the sort of fit. And definitely cutting edge. You know, if you were riding on a cycling track, or if you were walking down central London and someone rode past you in MAP apparel, you would definitely be like, wow, that's pretty loud.
Awesome.
I mean, I've known the guys for a long time. Actually, I was speaking with them in Utah at the start of the year, and I was trying to find out how we met.
Right.
And we didn't actually know.
Right.
We were just like, I think you messaged us, and I think we replied.
Right.
So, going to go to Australia on January the 3rd. Going to be there for about 9 weeks, I think, 8-9 weeks.
Yeah.
Good to follow the racing scene around there. Help them with some races, and then then I go off to Europe. I seem to sort of flip between the world of fashion and the world of cycling. I don't really know where I'm supposed to be.
Hopefully you'll figure that out.
Yeah. I think actually I've got it now. But actually, I spoke to someone the other day. And I said, you know what, this will be the first Christmas that I don't spend in a retail store for 10 years.
Wow. That's going to be fresh.
Yeah, like that's not going to be waking up on Boxing Day to deal with the Boxing Day sales for the first time in 10 years.
Wow.
And I think, you know what, I've nailed it. I've nailed it.
So what are you going to be doing for them in Europe?
So we're looking at sales and marketing. They're an Australian brand. They're based in Australia, a very small, tight-knit family.
Yep.
With a lot of ambassadors spread globally around the world, which we activate. And again, I like that family environment. That's where I feel comfortable. Yeah. And I instantly connected with Ollie and Jared and the guys. And I think we went to Utah at the start of the year in March, and we took 8 or 9 ambassadors from around the world. Yeah. You've got Tokyo, New York, Sweden, myself, and you put us all in a room. We've never met each other before.
Wow.
Just followed each other on Instagram and social media.
Wow.
And to connect and to just communicate and share that passion for riding a bike and taking pictures of it is pretty fascinating. And then I was like, you know what, I like this vibe. This family is good. And I knew my time was up in Dubai, and they were like, look, we're looking for someone to support us in Europe, because we're all based in Australia, and Europe's a pretty big place. Yeah. And so we're going to try and make that happen. See how that goes.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. And when's the next field trip that we're going on together? Did you say?
I think we were supposed to be in Oman actually with the Biking Man guys, but I can't make it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Based on your training, I'm pretty happy about that.
Mate, before we wrap up, you've obviously done a lot. You've been in a lot of really interesting situations. You've been part of some incredible brands. Like when I think when I think about what you did with Gallagher, when I think about Rafa, Paul Smith, and then you think about the brands that Wolfie has at his bike shop. They're the top brands in the world. And what I've always found really interesting about you is that you've been in retail, so you're constantly dealing with people.
Yeah.
Through those experiences, mate, you've obviously learnt a lot along the way.
Which is strange because I'm not really a people person. So.
That's what I was going to say. But when you look at it, mate, and to wrap things up, what would you say is one or two of the real major things that you've learned along the way?
From Wolfie's or from life?
From that journey that you've just explained to us over the last hour.
I think for me it's friendship and staying in touch with people around the world who mean a lot to you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've met a lot of people all around the world, and I make a very, very conscious decision to keep in touch with these people. Yeah,
right.
I mentioned a few people throughout this.
Absolutely, that comes through.
That come through, and I'll never forget these people for what they've done to support me in my life.
Very cool.
I like that. Yeah, you meet a lot of people in your life, especially in places like London and Dubai,
and in retail.
You know, and it's the people that touch you that mean a lot to me. Yeah?
So, and this is my final question.
Yes.
Based on that, because you come into contact with so many people, mate.
You're not going to ask me who my favourite customer is.
No. What's your decision-making process?
Yeah.
How does it work? Because you've met hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Is it that meeting of that Belgian guy in that coffee shop? Is it Wolfie giving you his business card at Dubai Tour because you're dressed like an alien?
Yeah.
What's your decision-making process that, I'm going to stay in touch with that person?
Oof. Yeah. I have no idea.
Really?
I think I like characters.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a character myself, and I like characters, you know. I like people with a bit of a story.
Yeah.
I like real people, not into people who are fake, and I can see people when they're fake and they're full of shit. Pardon me, but
that's okay.
And these are the people that I'm not going to keep in touch with, and and the people that I do keep in touch with are real, and they've been real to me, and they're real friends, and that's the decision-making process.
Awesome.
Essentially, if you're real,
well, let's do it.
Then you're a real friend.
Mate, we want to wish you the very best of luck. Thanks a lot to everything you've done for me in cycling and for all of the people within our community in cycling.
Thank you so much.
I think you've been able to communicate and to share a passion that I only think a few people within their industry are able to do. A lot of people wake up in the morning, go to work at a bike shop or a retail store because it pays them money.
Yeah.
You have a passion about it, and I think that comes through. So, mate, hopefully MAP allow you to express that same passion.
Yes.
If not, and maybe we start a bike shop. I don't know.
Maybe I'll pick up CrossFit.
Mate, thank you so much. You'll always have our support from InnerFight. We really appreciate you, and hopefully you'll be back in Dubai at some stage and we'll catch up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.